Hey guys, so the number 5 prospect in baseball right now is Gleyber Torres with the Yankees. And to be honest with you, of the top 5 so far, he's the one that I'm the most worried about. I just, there's a lot of really good things that are going on in his swing, but there's one thing in his swing that I think is really going to hold him back. So we're going to address that in just a second. But first, I'm going to talk about his loading sequence and how I think it actually is really good. So take a look how his back leg starts on an angle like this. And when he lifts and gets himself started, you'll notice, I'm going to change colors just so you can kind of see the distinction. The angle changes just a little bit. So he moves back, but you'll notice as well that the angle never goes to full straight up and down. So this would be full straight up and down right here. And this green line is the line that hitters never want to break. You never ever want to get your back leg stacked up on top of your foot. And if that ever happens, what ends up happening in that case is that you go all the way back and you're forced to push with your back leg, and it really stalls out your rotation. So his loading sequence is awesome, and his landing is great too. His problem is that we talked about in the Eloy Jimenez video, and if you haven't watched that, you can watch that too. But what you'll see with Torres is that his shoulders kind of move extra forward as he steps, and you'll see that his front hip and his shoulder is kind of like leaning forward, and this is getting kind of busy, so I'm going to draw it one more time. So you'll see that his shoulders, if anything, are kind of leaning down. And when he gets into his swing, he ends up kind of leaning his head almost like over his front hip. So you'll see that on almost every swing that he takes, he ends up in a posture like this, where ideally we want a posture like this. And I had talked about before in previous videos, and even in the last video that I just did, which is the Jimenez video. I know I just referenced that. But your swing plane is roughly perpendicular to your spine angle. That doesn't always match up, but look at how eerily close that is. So from most of these swings for Torres, he ends up leaning really far forward, and because of that, he ends up swinging excessively down. And when you swing excessively down, the hardest balls that you hit are going to be around the angle of your swing plane. So the hardest balls that he's going to hit are going to be in that 0 to 5 degree window, when you really want, in order to be a successful major league hitter, you want the hardest balls that you're going to hit somewhere between, like 10 and, 38 degrees. But for him, most of his hard balls are going to be hit right in this region here, where ideally we'd want most of his hard balls to be hit, in this region here. So hopefully he kind of makes a postural change as he continues to work on his swing. But if he keeps the posture that he's been using, then I think that he's kind of in trouble. I'm not just saying that. Like, I have a bunch of video lined up, and I wanted to make sure that before I make a statement like that and kind of say like I'm worried about someone's swing, I wanted to make sure I looked at a solid amount of video. But in almost every swing that he takes, he ends up leaning too far forward. And the ones that he kind of doesn't lean too far forward, which are BP swings, we'll see in just a second. This one's an emergency swing, so I don't look at that one in any type of evaluating way. But in these ones, he isn't leaning his body forward so much, but he slides his hip forward and he ends up straight up and down like this. Where in most really good swings, we want to get our front leg out in front of our head. So let me show you an example of what I mean by that. So let me use Harper. So here's Harper on the right. And you'll see the positioning of Harper's front leg relative to his head is on an angle. So from foot to head is angled back. And you can see how much closer to straight Torres's foot to head angle is. And you can see that on almost every swing that he takes. And it's really important in baseball that you get that foot in front of your head, because you, as the hitter, control the launch angle of your ball. Whereas like in golf, like if Torres were making this rotation and this swing in golf, then it would be really successful, because in golf the loft of the club controls the angle at which the ball comes off. But in baseball, you control the angle at which the ball comes off. by your swing plane and by your by the spot that you hit the ball. So for him, because he's so straight up and down, like I said, the hardest hit balls that he's going to get are in that 0 to 5 range. So I'm hopeful that he'll be able to change the way that he's approaching the pitch, because if he doesn't, then I don't think that he's going to be as good a major league hitter as everyone seems to think he's going to be. So hopefully he is able to make that swing change. Going to do a quick comparison of Torres to another major league hitter. I know I just did one of Harper, but I want to do one that matches his swing a little bit closer. And we're going to do Addison Russell, which is ironic because they used to be in the same organization. But I think Russell kind of has or had a couple similar problems. So you'll see that for Russell, he ends up leaning back on this ball pretty well, which is a little bit better than what Torres is doing. But you'll see that he also leaves his knee way behind him. So you can kind of see that Torres right here, through his head, he's kind of straight and like really leaning forward. But you also see that in Russell, he has his knee in a very similar position, but he ends up leaning back and really stretching his hip flexor out a lot. So Russell has the same kind of problem where he should be pulling his knee forward more, which would relieve some of that strain in his hip flexor and allow him to rotate more. But Torres, he keeps his posture like straight relative to knee to head, but if he pulled the knee forward, then he'd be able to kind of flip his posture and lean more back like this. So, I think that if Torres can get himself to lean back more, then I think then he'll have an opportunity to be more successful. But if he doesn't, then like I said, I think he's going to hit a lot of balls hard in the 0 to 5 degree angle and not really project to be the hitter that we were expecting him to be. So hopefully he's able to turn that around. And especially because I'm a Yankees fan, I'd like to see him be a good hitter for a long time. So hopefully he's able to make a couple changes there.